growing up in the 90s, there was one question that dominated every single recess period. Which franchise is better? Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh? Digimon was never really considered. Digimon, for those who hadn't been invested into the franchise, mostly was seen as simply a Pokemon clone, despite there being vast differences between the two, with the main connection just being both Pokemon and Digimon end with Mon. Even those who enjoyed Digimon, though, there was a sort of unspoken agreement that while the anime might be better for Digimon, the games, not so much. Fast forward 20 years. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has been picked up its pace so much that most people have ended up dropping the game because it's very hard for new people to enter. Because there's so many rules and mechanics. It's so convoluted. The text has become so long on the cards. Pokemon has been blamed for stagnation between the gens. That very little change is happening from one game to the next. Digimon has entered a renaissance. It has a new TCG, which, while not as strong as Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh, is still doing pretty well. It has 2 new animes at this point. There's Digimon Ghost Game, which was well received, and now Digimon Beat Break, which is just recently started and seems to be decently received at the bare minimum. Then there's Time Strangers, which everyone who has played seemed to agree that they love the game and think it's amazingly done. I want to help bring more people into the Digimon fandom to enjoy the game. And the best way I think to do that is to make a challenge run for it, based off of a Pokemon challenge run. I'm, of course, talking about the Nuzlocke. However, as there will be some differences between the two, by necessity, I am dubbing this the Digi.Locke. As this is the first iteration of the Digi.Locke, I am dubbing it version 1.0. I fully expect that as it gets further developed and established, the rules might be more solidified and established. But for now, the core rules would be: if a Digimon faints in battle, it must be deleted. You can only get 1 Digimon per area, and you must nickname your Digimon. However, just like how one rookie Digimon can evolve into multiple different champions, depending on how it's raised, I expect that additional rules will be added to fit your playstyle and what you're after. Some of these rules will inevitably make the Digi.Locke easier or harder, depending on what you add in. And I expect a lot of these will be added in the future to fit your playstyle. However, these are the ones that I've thought for people to add to their own version of it. I'll start with the ones that will make it easier. The first rule that comes to mind is moves like Revive and X-Revive can be used in battle, but if the Digimon is fainted by the end of battle, it must be deleted. In addition, the move Safety Guard can be used without abandon. And then they have unlimited access to gift Digimon and Digimon from outer dungeons. The last easy addition I would suggest is if you run into a Platinum Numamon, you can either revive one of your defeated Digimon or convert a second Digimon in the current zone. On the more moderate side, that'll likely make the Digi.Locke a little bit more difficult, but not too much more difficult. The additional rules I would suggest include only the first gift Digimon per zone can be used, and only one outer dungeon Digimon per zone can be used. Meaning, let's say there were 3 outer dungeons in the Gear Forest, you can only choose one. And then in the case of the gift Agumon and Gabumon, you can only pick one of the 2. In the case of if you buy the Ultimate Edition, the gift Agu Bond and Gabu Bond, you can only pick one of those 2. The second addition I would say is that the Digimon stage, your Digimon stage, cannot exceed that of the boss that they are fighting in the boss battle. So if the best example that comes to mind here would be the Calamaramon battle. Before that, you would likely be facing Skull Seedramon, which is an ultimate. The Calamaramon, in the case of this, I'm going by the Digimon TCG, is being treated as a champion level, even though it's hybrid. So for that battle, immediately before you face Calamaramon, all the ultimates that you had before, you'd have to bring back down to champion level to face Calamaramon. But throughout the stage prior to that, you can keep them as ultimates if you wish. Though remember, when you revert down, you will be back to level 1. So you might want to do some grinding to get back up, leveled up before you face her if you do wait. The third moderate rule I would say is that the Digifarm cannot be used to raise stats of your Digimon, with the sole exception being that if your Digimon to Digivolve into their next form is already the recommended personality type, and you have no stat boosters in your inventory that you can use to buff up that way, you can temporarily put them onto the farm just to get them to the stat requirements that they need. Not exceeding, just whatever it is, not going super high. I'm adding a little addition to this that can be used for stuff like that. Rather than deleting your Digimon, you can choose to put your deleted Digimon in the Digifarm. But of course, that means you need to spend yen in order to put them in there in order to keep them stored. The fourth one that I would say to go by is common one that people even use in Nuzlocke as well. Argued about putting this in the core rules, but decided to hold off for now. No items in battle. The fifth one, the move Safety Guard. What that move does is it applies the condition Guts to your Digimon, which allows them to automatically survive at 1 HP if they weren't already at 1 HP. So if they would have received a lethal blow, they no longer receive it. That can only be used once per battle. In addition, the moves Character Reversal, Attack Reflect, or Magic Reflect, only one of those moves can be on a single Digimon at a time. So you can have multiple Digimon who know Magic Reflect, But if that Digimon knows Magic Reflect, it can't know Attack Reflect or Character Reversal. Same with if it knows Attack Reflect, it can't know Character Reversal or Magic Reflect. If it knows Character Reversal, it can't know the two Reflects. Now, onto the changes that'll make the Digi.Locke hard. The first that comes to mind is rather than waiting for 200% to convert your Digimon, you convert as close to 100% as possible. Second is that if Agiomon ever faints in battle, for all future battles past that point, he can only go. Because you can't stop him showing up in battle, he's a guest Digimon. The third, no Digimon can be gotten from outer dungeons. The only gift Digimon that you can use is specifically either the Black Gabumon or Black Agumon from preloading the game. You can't use the Agumons, you can't use the Armor Digimon from Central Town. Those are the only two. The next one, either the Digifarm cannot be used at all, or if you want to use the Digifarm to store your Digimon that have fainted for posterity to see how many you've lost over the run, they must be placed in the Digimon farm as soon as possible. Meaning you have to stop all progress you're making to run back, get the training item you need to place them on the farm. The Digimon stage cannot exceed that of the next boss at any point. So using that Skull Siegemon example, as soon as you have beaten Skull Siegemon, you must immediately downgrade your Digimon back down to champion, rather than going through the entire stage waiting for Calamaramon's battle. It must be reverted immediately. Next, cross skills should not be used in battle. Additionally, the Digimon should not exceed what the recommended level for each boss is. I suggest if you're going to use this edition to do some research on what levels that is. That's likely not well established right now. That might be more established going forward. But that is one that I think people could consider adding at some point if they so choose. The last one, the moves Character Reversal, Safety Guard, Magic Reflect, and Attack Reflect are banned. They cannot be used at all in the entire playthrough. With those rules established, now we're on to how we actually decide which Digimon we get per area. Because unlike the case with Pokemon, where you could just go into a grass and a random Digimon might spawn, or even the newer Pokemon games where they show up in the overworld, where it's still random which Pokemon might show in an area, the Digimon always spawn in set locations. If you choose, you can just choose to pick one per area yourself, especially if you're wanting a slightly easier one. But my suggestion for it would be a roulette wheel. That you put all of the Digimon into a list, spin the wheel, and whichever one it lands on, that's what you go for. The next thing to consider is what Digimon to Digivolve into. While you can just choose whichever form you wish, my suggestion instead would be to, again, randomly choose whatever you're evolving up into, and I suggest you do so specifically at the point when you catch that form. So let's say you get a Koromon. Koromon can evolve into Agumon, Gyomon, two others I don't remember off the top of my head. When you catch a Koromon, you would roll those 4, and then let's say you got Gyomon. That means you have to evolve your Koromon into said Gyomon. If your Koromon faints, you lose access to Koromon and Gyomon. This will allow more diversity in your team. And it'll also narrow down some of the chances in later routes if you know that a Digimon's there, but it's already on your team. This would obviously apply when a Digimon evolves as well. So in the case of that Gyomon example, when you evolve into Gyomon, you would then randomly choose the champion level. And then if you lose a Gyomon, you will also lose that champion. As stated at the start of this video, this is still sort of a work in progress. So all of these rules could change going forward. There might be additional rules that people might want to add to such a format. And right now, it's completely untested. For that reason, I will be starting a Digi.Locke on Monday, next week. I'm going to try it first as a moderate build. So the additional rules I will be adding to mine will be only the first gift Digimon per zone can be used, and only one outer dungeon Digimon per zone. I will be using the Digifarm to store any Digimon that faint. But I will also allow myself to use the farm to get a Digimon the required stats, as long as I don't have any stat boosters and their personality is the best one for what they're going to evolve into. No items in battle. Safety Guard can only be used once per battle. And each Digimon can only have Character Reversal, Attack Reflect, or Magic Reflect. They cannot have all three. I don't know how well this will go. I would love for people to come join me. And I would love if people have additional suggestions that they feel might make this more enjoyable. I hope to see you there.